Welcome to Ape Academy. Today we're going to be talking about the standard or the measuring device I'm using if somebody contributed positively or negatively in physics. This may help you in determining if somebody is doing well or not, or contributing positively or not. If I say yes to any of these questions, it's a positive contribution. I have a list here from 1 to 7. For the first one out of 7, I'm going to start with if they experimented and made deductions. In other words, if they used induction and deduction, if they saw the world and also made deductions from there. Did they extract numerical data from the experiments? Were the results of the experiment expressed as a formula? Were the results integrated with other relevant scientific branches? There are a few scientific branches that overlap in similarity, like math and physics and chemistry. The findings of each of these branches can enhance and strengthen the understanding or discovery from one field to another. Because reality doesn't contradict itself, things are what they are. You can add on to your understanding of reality, and that can make it a stronger positive contribution. For number 2, I ask, did they conclude the unit with one cause has one effect? Specific entities act in one specific way. One unit will respond the same way every time. For number 3, were the factors in the experiment based on contextual knowledge of the nature of the unit? Or was it just arbitrary? If a new unit was discovered, was a new concept formulated? Sometimes when new units are discovered, a new concept isn't formulated, and there's an idea that because something was discovered, everything's contradictory and nothing's knowable. For number 5, was the new concept valid? So if they made a new concept, is it a valid concept? And I addressed how to determine if a concept is valid by asking if the unit in question is an aspect of reality. Is it something traceable to sensory observation? Something like an entity, attribution, action, quality, relationship, perceptual, concrete, and or earlier formed concept. And I kind of make an example, though a poorly one, of a lot of spheres that you can just observe, feel, potentially taste. So that's the first part in determining if a concept is valid. The second part is, did the person who made the concept isolate the unit according to its specific characteristics or attribute? So with all of these spherical items that you observe, did you isolate that according to its specific characteristics? So a spherical item that you can hold in your hand, that's isolating that. And for a third part, in determining if a concept is valid, in chronological order, did they integrate that isolated characteristic or attribute to one unit by language? So with all of these, with that specific characteristic, did you isolate that characteristic to one unit? And that one unit by language, the word ball. Language being a code of visual auditory symbols. So ball, you can write it visually. converting concepts into a mental equivalent of a concrete. And then with a language, you need a definition of something. And there are people that I've heard of who say definitions are arbitrary, that you just prescribe one arbitrary thing to one unit, that it doesn't actually matter, that we could just talk about anything, and that the language that we do use is convenient, and that's the only reason why we do it. The antithesis that I'm going to propose is a definition is a statement of identifying the nature of the units subsumed under a concept with a genus and differentia. Genus being identifying the connection to a larger connection of existence. How do you identify it from a larger connection of existence versus everything else? And the differentia, which is that who isolates the units of a concept from all other existence. So within that genus of existence, how can you isolate that from all the other existence within the genus? The example I use is a table. A table is a really common hot topic on language and definition. Like, what is a table? In the philosophical world, you can't go past a discussion about a table, it seems like, and that's the one that's heavily discussed. So I use that term as an example, or the word, the concept of table, and it's an item of furniture, which is the genus, consisting of a flat, level surface and supports intended to support other small objects, which is, that last part is the differentia if you're looking at the screen. And a concept as a whole, the definition of a concept to help tie it all together for you in determining if the concept is valid, is a mental integration of two or more units possessing the same distinguishing characteristics with their particular measurements omitted. If it's not that, then it's not a valid concept. To keep moving on, I ask if the physicist defined the concepts numerically, if it was enumerated. For 7, if a new generalization was discovered, was it valid? Did the physicist thus trace this generalization, this all statement, to reality? In other words, perception. Does this perception lead or follow to a first level generalization? Is the first level generalization self-evident? The example I use is cause and effect. There is a cause and there's an effect. You directly perceive it and you make a conception of that into a generalization. That's your first generalization, which can't be any more basic than that, making it essentially an axiom for other generalizations that you would build upon. Are there contextual discoveries involved with this generalization? When you look at an inductive concept, it's usually based off of previous ideas that were made were these previous ideas valid? Or is it just kind of floating in the air like a rational idea, rationalism? Was there a difference that made the difference? Did they use Mill's method of difference? In the experiments, were there similarities present in all the cases that made the desired effect, or Mill's method of similarity? Those are the other questions that I would ask. And if not, it would be an invalid generalization. That's my current list, in which I decide if someone contributed positively or negatively in physics. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Bye.